there are now school districts that are banning the book Maus, M-A-U-S, because it has Nazi symbolism in it.
Sure.
That is obviously you are banning a book that you did not fucking read.
Yeah.
Because a book like Maus is actually to inform you on how awful it gets when that kind of regime is put into place.
Well,
and that's the whole story of that thing. And it's meant to educate young people on being able to recognize totalitarian governments. And now all of a sudden this book that forces you to recognize totalitarian governments has been banned, which would be the action of a totalitarian government.
So Trudeau went on to say about this thing, it was like freedom of expression, assembly, and association are cornerstones of democracy, but Nazi symbolism, racist imagery, and desecration of war memorials are not. And it's like you're pulling that out of context, Trudeau. Like
you can't disagree with his statement.
No, his statement's correct, but he's saying it out of context.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
yeah, but we live in a soundbite culture, man.
It's very true. It's very, very true. Like this is why I have such a fucking beef with printed media now.
This is why I have a beef with media.
Well, yeah, which is why I am also on. Well, obviously, as a podcaster, I'm on Joe Rogan's side on this Spotify thing. It's the
I
same
like the way
fucking
he's
battle.
handling it, though.
Yo,
Like, he was like, you know what?
He put out a thing.
Apparently, y'all don't understand that I invite people on to have an interesting conversation with me, regardless of, and he has very much brought on people from both sides of any argument.
Sure. He had fucking Bernie Sanders on there. Then like
Sanjay Gupta.
I mean,
like he said, all, from the science thing to the spiritual side to, he's been all over the fucking place.
Yeah,
it's just an
talks to
interesting
people.
conversation. And again, this turns into, so he had one interview and you're going to isolate that against the, 3,000 interviews he's now fucking done. Cause he records every fucking day.
Yeah.
Like
multiple shows too.
Yeah.
In a day sometimes.
And, but it'll turn into like, well, this one time he had this one guy that said this one thing and I don't fucking agree with it. So pull my fucking music. And it's like, okay, but what about when he brings the people on that say the opposite?
It's cancel culture.
And it's again, but that's evidence of that soundbite culture. The whole like, well, I only need to focus on this one instance of it happening. And it's like, I get that way when you say something in a generality and the people go like, well, what about this? And
Are
it's
you
like,
eating a fucking fruit roll up?
Yes.
You fucking child.
he said he was high at the beginning of the show. Like, what are you
I
not
have
tracking?
not seen a fruit roll up in 10 years.
Right. You want one?
Fuck yeah, I want one.
Okay. I grabbed a few.
Woo, thanks, buddy.
Fellas, you guys want a fruit roll up? Justin wants a fruit roll up. I know you do. Dave?
So I saw this. I saw this last week and I saved it because it made perfect sense to me. And I don't know why more people aren't, understanding kind of what's going on in the big picture of everything. But it's a quote from somebody who wrote to a school board about banning books. And it says, "I'm not going to sit here and talk about the slippery slope that book banning leads to because I've learned from a book that I checked out from my school's library that I don't need to resort to logical fallacy to make a point. I'm simply going to say that no government, and public school is an extension of government, has ever banned books and banned information from its public and been remembered in history as the good guys."
Yeah.
True statement.
So one of my favorite statements about that is actually from Stephen King.
Yeah.
And Stephen King said, let them ban them.
And then go to the library.
Don't do anything about it, but as fast as you can, find another library or bookstore wherever you can and get that book they just banned. Because whatever knowledge they are trying to deny from you is exactly the knowledge you need.
Yeah.
And that's from a horror author. Like,
That's from a guy who doesn't really lean to the same side that most of us lean
this
to.
motherfucker walks around Maine and then talks about like, Fluffy, that dog you loved, it's back to eat you. Like, that's that fucking guy. And
Actually, I think the dog's name was Cujo.
that's a different book. I'm talking about Pet Cemetery. Cujo's a whole different fucking story.